Today we're going to review adding and subtracting fractions. Adding and subtracting fractions is easy to do if we have a common denominator. So we are going to practice with problems that do not have a common denominator. Our first problem is 3/5 plus 1/10. So to solve this problem, first I want to rewrite the problem vertically. 3/5 plus 1/10. Now we will need a common denominator before we can add. So the least common denominator will be 10 because 5 and 10 both go evenly into 10. I could have used numbers that were larger. I could have used 20 or 30 and so on, but it's easiest to work with smaller numbers. So now I'm ready to find my equivalent fractions. So I think to myself, what number times 5 will give me 10? 5 times 2 will give me 10, and so I will do the same thing to the top. 3 times 2 will give me 6. 10 times 1 is 10, so 1 times 1 just is still 1/10. Now I'm ready to add. 6 plus 1 is 7, and the denominator stays the same. Alright, let's try subtracting. 3/4 minus 5/8. Do not have a common denominator, so I'm going to rewrite vertically. 3/4 minus 5/8. I'll need a common denominator. The smallest number that 4 and 8 will both go into is 8. Now I'm ready to find my equivalent fractions. 4 times 2 is 8. What I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. 3 times 2 is 6. 8 times 1 is 8. 5 times 1 is 5. Now I'm ready to subtract. 6 minus 5 is 1. The denominator stays the same. Now let's try mixed numbers. Let's say I have 2 and 1/3, and I would like to add that to 3 and 1/4. Step 1, rewrite vertically. 2 and 1/3 plus 3 and 1/4. So again, I must have a common denominator before I can add. Good common denominator for 3 and 4 would be 12. Three times 4 is 12, and so 1 times 4 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12, and so 1 times 3 is 3. Now I can bring my whole number over, and I'm ready to add. 4, 5, 6, 7 on the numerator. Denominator stays the same. And then 3 and 2 will give us 5. Let's try another adding mixed number problem. 3 and 5/6 plus 5 and 11/12. I will rewrite them vertically. 3 and 5/6 plus 5 and 11/12. I need a common denominator for my fractions. 6 and 12 will both go evenly into 12. 6 times 2 is 12. 5 times 2 is 10. Bring my whole number over. 12 times 1 is 12. 11 times 1 is 11. Bring the 5 over. I'm ready to add. 10 and 11 will give me 21. Denominator stays the same. 5 and 3 will give me 8. Now, I have an improper fraction here, and so I need to simplify this. I'm going to have to change this improper fraction into a mixed number. To do that, I turn it on its side and divide. So I'll do that down here. 21 divided by 12. 12 will go into 21 one time. 1 times 12 is 12. I'm ready to subtract. So I'll have to borrow because I cannot take 2 from 1. That'll make it an 11, and it'll make this a 1. 11, 10, 9. And 1 minus 1 is 0. So now my mixed number is 1, because it went in one whole time, with 9 twelfths left over. The remainder becomes the numerator. The denominator stays the same. So I changed this improper fraction into this mixed number. So now I need to combine this mixed number with this whole number. So 8 plus 1 is 9, and here's our fraction of 9 twelfths. Now this is going to seem like the never-ending problem because I'm still not done. I need to simplify this fraction. I'm going to scooch over here. So I have 9 and 9 twelfths, but I need to simplify here. Both numbers are divisible by 3, so I do a little tiny divide by 3. I'm going to keep my whole number. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So finally I have my simplified answer. Let's try a subtracting mixed number problem. 5 minus 3 and 2/3. So we will start by rewriting vertically. 5 minus 3 and 2/3. Now, I cannot simply subtract my whole numbers and drop down my fraction. I have to take this 2/3 away from something, but there isn't anything there. So what I'm going to do is borrow. I'm going to borrow one whole from that 5, which makes the 5 become a 4. Now that one whole I borrowed needs to become a fraction. And I want my fraction to go ahead and have a common denominator. I notice that my denominator is 3. So I would like for my one whole to be 3 over 3. Because 3 over 3 equals one whole, which is what we borrowed from here. So now that I have a common denominator, I'm ready to subtract. 3 minus 2 is 1. Denominator stays the same. Now I'm taking 4 minus 3 to get my new whole number of 1. So 1 and 1/3 is my completed answer. Let's try one more. This time we'll take 3 and 3/8 and subtract 1 and 3/4. I'll start by rewriting vertically. 3 and 3/8 minus 1 and 3/4. Just like before, I must have a common denominator. I'm going to use 8. 8 times 1 is 8, so 3 times 1 is 3. Now I bring over my whole number. 4 times 2 is 8, so 3 times 2 is 6. Now I'll bring over my whole number. When I look to subtract my fractions, I realize I cannot take 6 from 3, so I'll need to borrow. I'm going to borrow 1 whole from this 3 and make the 3 a 2. Now that I borrowed the 1 whole, I need to add that 1 whole to my existing fraction. Just like before, I want my fraction to go ahead and have a common denominator. So I'm going to use 8 over 8 because 8 over 8 is equivalent to 1. I'm going to add that 8 over 8 to my existing 3/8 fraction. So I'm going to rewrite here. My new whole number was 2, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'll get 2 and 11 over 8. I know that's improper, but that was the purpose. We needed more so that we could do our subtracting. It's okay that it's improper at this point. And we'll just bring this 1 and 6/8 over. So now I have a common denominator, and I can take 6 from 11. I'm ready to subtract. So 11 minus 6 is 5. The denominator stays the same. 2 minus 1 is 1, and this fraction doesn't need any reducing, and so we're finished.